Hey,
You ready to kick this show off?
I am.
Awesome. Everyone out there, thanks for being here. Put your thoughts and comments in the live stream if you're watching live, and we'll see what we can do about making that part of the show. And with that, hello and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 340, recorded June 13th, 2023. I'm Michael Kennedy.
And I'm Brian Ocken.
And this episode is brought to you by Influx from Influx Data. Awesome real-time DB. So time series database. So we're excited to tell you about that later. If you want to connect with us, you can find us all on mastodon.org, at mkennedy, at Brian Ocken, and at Python Bytes. Join us for the live show at pythonbytes.fm/live. If you want to be part of the live stream and be in the audience, all the older video versions are there as well. And Brian, before we jump into your first topic, I've got some ideas, a request from the audience.
Okay.
So we are going to do an Ask Me Anything episode. And
Awesome.
Really, that should be Ask Us Anything, but the AUA is not typically how people announce it. It's the AMA, not AUA. So following convention standard acronyms there, Ask Us Anything. And I put together a Google form. It is super short. It says, what is your name? What is your question? And if you want, there's a few other fields for like second question, and things like that, but they're optional. So if you're listening and you've ever wondered, like, I wonder if Brian has a thought on an opinion on this. Does he have an opinion on PyTest plugins? I don't know. Maybe. Does Michael have a thought on podcasting? Whatever. Please take the time and put that in there, and we'll give you credit on the show as well. If you don't want to have your name in there, just put anonymous or something. So everyone check that out. It is I created a short URL for it. Let's see. pythonbytes.fm/AMA 2023. So people can just go over there and check it out. So that's going to be a lot of fun, Brian. I don't know when we're scheduling it. I'm probably pretty much when we get enough questions. Thinking.
Okay. And we'll and that link will be in the show notes, right? So
absolutely.
Yep. Nice.
And so let's talk GUIs. We haven't been on a GUI rant for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever talked about GUIs. I think maybe we have.
Perhaps.
It's been a while. I ran across this website called PythonGUIS, and it's like a whole website dedicated to Python GUIs, and it's from a fellow named Martin Fitzpatrick. He does consulting and some other stuff. And this is pretty kind of cool. This fairly comprehensive. There's he has tutorials and references to books and everything like that, but it's kind of a neat walkthrough, just the website itself. Like, for instance, where do I begin? His recommendation is doing PyQt6 to start with if you don't have a preference. However, there's so let's walk through a couple. So if you just kind of walk through, and he talks about what you should learn, what tutorials are available. And then it says continue. So if you continue on with the PyQt6, you just sort of walk through a tutorial around how to get Qt Designer up and everything. But there's a lot more than just Qt here. He's got tutorials on PyQt6, Qt5, PySide, TKender. There's even a tutorial. Most recent tutorial I saw was getting started with Kivy for GUI development, and it's a pretty lengthy getting started with Kivy thing. So and it covers Mac, Windows, Linux. So it's pretty comprehensive. It's kind of nice. So
yeah, this looks really nice. I think I always feel like there's this paradox of choice, and when I'm thinking about Python GUIs, and there's there's no real clear answer, and they're all kind of got their own oddities into them or their own restrictions. But this is really cool to see them put all side by side and different tutorials helping you get started.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like it. I think a lot of people start with like TKenter, or it's not TK in there. It's whatever. Tinker, I forget what they call it with Python. but it's not. I don't think that's a great place to start. If you want something to look really nice, if you're gonna support it, I kind of agree with him. Maybe starting with Qt or Qt. Sorry, I I grew up using Qt without knowing how to pronounce it. People do pronounce it cute, but yeah. Anyway, uh, so if you want to learn about Python GUIs, maybe check out pythonguis.com. So, what do you got for us? Oh, you're muted.
Before we move on, Brian, I do want to also just sort of second that I think cute. Those look like native applications that belong on your platform, right? When you're not gonna like, oh, what? Clearly, some funky cross-platform API is what we're working with here right now. This stuff looks pretty solid, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is TK Enter. Why do we call it TK Enter? Or Tkinter? I don't know. Because it's not TK. Oh, because it's from the TK toolkit. Got it.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Got it.
That makes sense.
All right. I have something for all the data scientists out there. How about that?
Okay.
JupyterLab, which is the more capable, the more IDE-like experience for Jupyter notebooks. 4.0 is here, and it looks like a pretty mega release. So they say, they being Jason Weil, say the next major release of the full feature development environment for Jupyter is here. It is available for install right off PyPI and Conda Forge. So if you have it, all you got to do is pip install -- upgrade JupyterLab or Conda install -c Conda Forge JupyterLab. And it'll just upgrade in place for you. So that's pretty excellent. That's low maintenance, low effort upgrade. I suspect there's a lot of stuff happening when you run those commands. One of the big deals is JupyterLab is now faster. There's a bunch of different ways in which they made that happen. Where that's happening. Notebook windowing is one of them, where for a long notebook, instead of trying to process and load the whole thing, it'll just show the web browser viewport in terms of rendering, which will make some of the rendering faster. We've got CSS rule optimizations, CodeMirror. CodeMirror is the text editor of the cell. So CodeMirror 6 is out, and MathJax 2 as well. So if you're working with large notebooks, it should be much more efficient than JupyterLab 3, they say.
Awesome.
That's encouraging, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Let's see what else. There's additional performance improvements, but you have to turn these on. So you can get faster tab switching on Chromium-based browsers, which is unfortunately almost all of them, but that's the world we live in. So you can do, but you got to go settings at JupyterLab shell, switch hidden mode to content visibility. And for even more better performance with long notebooks, you got to go settings notebook, switch on a windowing mode to full. Okay, so those are all options. I told you there's a new CodeMirror. That's the text editor for cells and file editors. And it's upgraded to CodeMirror 6, which has a bunch of accessibility and performance improvements. So people can check that out, what's changed there. Also, JupyterLab, I'm not sure I knew this, comes with real-time collaboration, aka Google Docs style of collaboration.
Okay, I didn't know that they do that.
I did not either. I knew there were some notebook platforms that did, but I didn't realize JupyterLab did. So they moved this RTC, real-time collaboration, to a separate package, Jupyter Collaboration, and that's available. It's its own sort of thing. Includes support for multiple cursors and selections, new shared types, and yeah. There's also a new extension manager for JupyterLab extensions. Improved document search, UI enhancements, like more hotkeys and other styles. Accessibility improvements, dev tool updates, like how they build JupyterLab. So TypeScript v5 and React v18. Most people won't care about that, but if you work on or try to customize the JupyterLab itself, then like you create an extension or something, you probably care. And finally, more than 100 bugs have been addressed and resolved, making it more stable and faster. So that sounds like a pretty big deal, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Yes, I think addressed means fixed and not just said hello to.
Exactly. Hello, Bug. How shall I address you? You shall call me a CVE, remote code execution. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. No, probably not like that, right?
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. Getting some thumbs up from the audience as well. Now, before we move on, I want to just talk about our sponsor real quick, Influx DB. So thanks to Influx for supporting the show. So this episode of Python Bytes is brought to you by Influx Data, the makers of InfluxDB. InfluxDB is the database purpose-built for handling time series data at a massive scale for real-time analytics. And developers can ingest, store, and analyze all types of time series data, metrics, events, traces in a single platform. So how would boundless cardinality and lightning-fast SQL queries impact the way you develop real-time applications? Check out Influx. Influx DB processes large time series data sets and provides low latency SQL queries, making it the go-to choice for developers building real-time apps and seeking crucial insights. For developer efficiency, InfluxDB helps you create IoT, analytics, and cloud applications using timestamped data rapidly and at scale. It's designed to ingest billions of data points from in real time with unlimited cardinality. InfluxDB streamlines building once and deploying across the various platforms and environments from the edge, on-premise, and to the cloud. So try them for free at pythonbytes.fm/influxdb. The link is in your podcast player show notes. Thank you to Influx Data for supporting the show.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
I would like to talk about data, but not databases, but data types. So this is kind of early to talk about, but hey, Brett Cannon can write about it on his blog. I think it's fair game to talk about. So Brett Cannon had a proposal for a new kind of data type in Python called a struct. Structs aren't new things. We've lived with them in C for a long time, and other languages have other types. I want to take a slight detour before I talk about the struct proposal from Brett. And by proposal, I don't mean it's a PEP. I don't think it's a PEP yet. I think it's just an idea that he had. But I think it's a cool idea. So, but one of the things he talked about was algebraic data types. And I got to admit, I haven't run across that term, algebraic data types, before like a week ago or so. And then I've read 2 articles referring to it. I'm used to ADTs being abstract data types, which are data, user defined data types. In I don't know what the abstract means, but anyway, um, algebraic ones are things that you can compose. They're like abstract data types, but they're the things that you can compose, like a a list is a nil plus. I don't know what that means. But anyway, or tree is either is composed of empty or leaf or a node or something. I don't. I'm still not quite sure how this makes anything to do with it. Side diversion. Anyway, so what does this look like? And it's kind of a neat idea. So jumping down to an example, with a struct, you could just say um, a, a s- a point is a struct that takes x and y, and they're both integers. Say. Um, and they have to be named or either positional or named, but they cannot be unnamed only. I don't know why. But and then it'd be kind of like named classes or named tuples to access it. So you just access the stuff. So you just declare this a point. It takes x and y, and then you can get at it with like say p dot x or p dot y, and that's it really. So what is this? Why would we need this? And I think it'd be really pretty cool to have something that simple. And these structs would be they'd not allow inheritance. They would have no methods currently. No methods, no inheritance, and they're not mutable. So you can't change the thing in it. Why is that important? Well, you can use these things for keys in dictionaries and things like that. And I just think this would be kind of cool because I still with data types, even with data types and all the other goodies and adders and other goodies we have within Python, I still use name tuple a lot, and I would totally use this for a lot of stuff, and make it, especially if it was super fast. So that's the idea. Got any
It
ideas?
looks interesting, and the defining syntax is kind of a one-liner, a little bit,
Yeah.
as you pointed out, like a named tuple, but it defines a class-like thing with these optimizations, for example, dunder slots, and kind of an data classes type thing with dunder equal and dunder hash. So for people listening, you just say all in one line, struct, point a capital P for the type, parenthesis X, comma Y. That's the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Tony out in the audience does wonder if it actually requires type annotations or if those are optional. I would guess they're optional, but I like them, so I don't know.
No, Brett says in his article he would propose that they would be optional if you just had 2 elements in something. I mean,
it seems consistent with Python that it would be optional, right?
Yeah.
And Tony also says, "Oh boy, I just started writing some Rust code at work, so I'm interested in this for Python."
Yeah, and that, like, the example that Brett gave of this point, he then showed the example of what under the hood that would give you that you don't have to write. And this example of like being able to convert it to a dictionary and replace parameters and using slots, and I mean there's a lot of code here that you don't need to write. And yes, we do kind of have data classes that sort of do this, but data classes are not they're not optimized for data, for having lots and lots of them. So this would be like an optimization to have just like huge data structure full of these things and have it still be fast.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
And having it be part of the language, maybe they could do optimizations around it for Python 3.14 or whatever, this faster C Python story. Like, for example, if you know it's immutable, could you make it allocate on just the stack and not actually go to the heap or things like this, right? It'd be interesting. Yeah, maybe that's a bridge too far, but
I'm also interested in how this maps to like hardware, because dealing with registers and hardware interfaces, there's in using C, we often have structs that we overlay over the top of like shared memory systems, and this might be great use for something like that. So yeah.
A few more thoughts out there. Grant says this is in line with what Mojo expresses. We recently spoke about them.
Yeah.
Would love to have a struct in Python. And Blaze points out, waiting for Hennick's opinion. Maybe something like this will get into adders. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So, sometimes, Brian, it's about putting new things into Python. Sometimes, however, it's about ripping it out.
Yes.
So my next item is the realization of PEP 594. So PEP 594, for those of you who don't know, I interviewed Christian Himes and Brett Cannon. Speaking of Brett Cannon, it gets a back-to-back mention here about removing Python's dead batteries and this PEP 594. And the idea is there's stuff in Python that makes no sense to be in Python. It made sense when we had a world without the internet, when there was no concept of pip install, and you really needed to kind of have Python come with a lot of its capabilities. But now, if you go over to pypi.org, what is the current number? We have 460,000 packages that are revolving, like a larger definition of what Python is, really, really fast, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, do you think it would make sense potentially to have an implementation of an async chat client built into the standard library of Python? Maybe no.
I didn't know we had that.
Well, apparently we did until 3.12. So that's not actually out yet, but it's gone. Or like an SMTP daemon built into Python, right? Who should be running their own mail client as part of Python itself? Not even a separate package. But more importantly, as was discussed over on the podcast, like this is overhead for all the core devs.
Yeah.
Do we want them working on things like the struct, or do we want them still managing
CGI.
AIFC? Yeah, AI, like audio parsing for expired, nobody uses anymore audio formats, or CGI, or telnet libraries, or like chat clients. So
yeah.
This basically is the announcement by Victor Stinner, I believe, saying we just removed 19 modules from Python 3.13 standard library. These are the ones that have already been deprecated in 3.11 by PEP 594. So yeah, it's a big long list of them. Like I said, like you pointed out, some CGI, image header, mail stuff. Also talks a little bit about the 3.12 and 3.11 ones, which are gone. And then finally, it does say, like, if this affects you, here's what you can do. Do nothing. Just stay on 3.11. It says, in my opinion, it is a dangerous long-term choice. However, you can do nothing. You could create a group of volunteers to give life to this module, right? The module is open source in the sense that Python's standard library is open source. So you go in there, you copy the files out, you make a PyPI package for it, and you find people who want to keep it going. Or you vendor it. You could copy the removed module just into your code itself, right? Often it's just a .py file, so you just vendor it in if you have to. Honestly, that kind of seems like a pretty decent idea if you're like going low key and you don't want to take on an open source project to maintain CGI. You just like, I just need this to run. So you can copy that over. And then there's a whole discussion on stuff around this, right? If you want. So anyway, 20 standard lib modules, they're out.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Just like, changing your batteries, kind of like your smoke detectors. So
yeah, exactly. One more audience comment on this before we move on. Grant says, happy for the Python core devs to kill all these modules. Nothing makes senior engineers happier than calling bodies of code that aren't worth their weight. I totally agree.
right.
I would be happy, honestly, to see even a thinner, smaller Python standard library and then have more of these as pip installed. But then when you install Python, it could like kind of come pre-installed with 20 or 30 packages that if you want to upgrade them separately or I don't know. So for things like if I want to run this on MicroPython, I wouldn't run it on WebAssembly under PyScript. Like those situations are like the whole huge standard library is a problem. So I don't know. I feel like there's interesting stuff happening here, but this is a good start.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is. So
it is. Is that all of our items? I believe it is, isn't it?
It is. And so some of these decisions are made by some of the core Python people on the maybe on the Python board have something to do with some of this, perhaps. So if the elections for so one of our extras, I'd like to mention that the PSF announced that you need if you care about elections, you kind of need to affirm your PSF membership voting status before the 15th. So the cutoff is only a couple days from now. So, and I'm glad somebody mentioned this. I can't remember where I saw it because it sort of went in my email inbox and I forgot to look. So I just affirmed my voting status this morning. So
excellent. Well, I definitely affirmed mine a couple days ago. So
nice.
It's all good. But yeah, thanks for pointing it out here. This is great.
Okay. Do you have any extras?
I do. I just released a video collab with Julian Sequeira and Bob Belderbos from the Bytes guys about 5 tips for budding Python developers, 5 career tips for budding Python developers as a 25-minute YouTube video. So people can check that out. That link is in your show notes if that sounds interesting to you.
It looks like Julian and Iron Man are looking at the same thing.
They are. Julian has an Iron Man painting in the background behind him, and they've got the same basic expression. Pretty awesome. So people can check that out. Also, PyCon US 2023. Remember that, Brian? It was a while ago.
Yeah, all the videos are around.
The videos are out.
Yay!
Yay! So there are some that are unavailable that are hidden. I'm wondering if that's intentional or if that's like they were uploaded and hidden and they're just forgot to be set to public. So whoever is in charge of this might want to look why there's hidden videos published to this playlist. But I don't know how many there are. There's 142 videos, possibly some others as well that are hidden on this playlist. So people can check it out. This is basically all of PyCon, including the tutorials, if you want to go and kind of be part of that side of PyCon, which is excellent.
Nice. So some are white and some are kind of this gray color. Do you know what the difference is? No.
No idea. I think it's just the font, the opening slide they use for their presentation. Okay, right. I don't know if there's more to read into it than that. I would like to maybe, I don't know if the people who are organizing next year's PyCon are listening. I would like to propose just some kind of suggestion that might make this a little easier for them, because this seems to be like a huge challenge from what I can tell, right? PyCon was in April. It's the middle of June, and now the videos have come out. So somebody has spent, like a month and a half working on these videos, and the community's been waiting a month and a half to get them, right? Brian, how quickly is our video for Python Bytes out when we're done with it?
Like right when we're done.
I mean, like literally you could seek around in it before, as you like part of the stream, right? We're just live streaming this using something like StreamYard. And I know that there's a pay to attend virtually. So maybe you don't want to have a public stream that people can use. But this kind of just live streaming it to YouTube, even if that's an unlisted URL that you then, when the conference is over, flip to public. Because I know that kind of you don't necessarily want that to be going, have that whole live experience if you're not part of the, like I signed up for the virtual pass, which is great. It's fine. But I think we could get these videos in a lot quicker and help people a lot if we did something like, just like kind of live streamed it. I know people might worry about the connectivity and it cutting out and the quality, but with, like, for example, StreamYard, it records local video. It's like maximum quality, right? So if they had a stream deck where they could switch the views and they had this going and recording locally, like these videos would be out as quick as you could click from unlisted to public on YouTube.
I do want to, I guess, disagree with you on that.
Okay.
So PyCascades, for one, did the I don't know if it was available right away, but it was available soon after the entire day recordings. So you had the day recordings. So if you wanted to find yours or something, or find somebody's, you could kind of scroll through and find it. It was just sort of going, there wasn't any editing, so it was kind of hard to deal with. I don't know how many people really watch those, but the PyCon US videos, I didn't realize this at first. Somebody corrected me. They were available to people that either attended live or attended virtually, but didn't get to go to all the videos. Your the online experience included being able to go in and watch videos, the other videos that you missed. So those were available right away. I didn't know about it, so maybe advertising it more. And also, it was a little hard to get to. I got to say, it wasn't easy. I kind of would like to have like the schedule that you go into if you're logged in, and you can see the schedule. Why not have that be able to just link to the video that you missed or something like that? Yep. I don't know. There's better ways to make it a little bit easier. It was a little hard to deal with, but it was available. And I also think, like, for instance, going back to PyCascades, I did a talk. The recording, the full day one had like glitches and had me up there at the beginning trying to get the audio ready, and there's this getting started stuff, whereas having somebody be able to clean that up a bit would be good. But I don't think that this is a long time from from when PyCon really was to now. That's what, month
I
and
think
a
it's too
half?
long.
That's too long.
I think it's too long.
So
last year, 2022 was 3 months, I believe. I mean, it's a long time.
And I know it's a lot of work, but maybe we could do something, either having rough cut ones out there initially, or maybe have some of us volunteer. I mean, I think we could have some volunteers to help clean them up for like good enough for now, or sort of things. I don't know, something.
Yeah, I agree. We should have made this a whole item, I suppose, if we're talking this much. The final thought is, like with StreamYard, I don't know about the other ones. You can literally go in before you hit publish. You can just say trim this end, go to click. Okay, put it on YouTube now, and then like that would be, not very much. I agree that you don't want all the setup and that junk. You want to like, welcome, I'm Brian. I'm talking about extensions, etc., right? Like straight away.
And I can't get the slides to work, and just
exactly. I know you want to skip all that crap. Okay, but good news, the videos are out and people can check them out.
Okay. Next.
Next. Couple version updates for Python. Python 3.11.4, 3.10.12, 3.9.17, 3.8.17, 3.7.17, and importantly, 3.12 beta 2 are all out. And you might be interested to know that both the 3.11 and 3.10, I suppose the others, include security fixes. So nice to meet you, Mr. CVE. For example, some problems that were solved in OpenSSL are now included. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 7 or 8 CVEs that were addressed on OpenSSL, and some URL parsing and UU decode and things that might look like you want to get fixed. So check that out and upgrade if you can. Python Bytes is already running 3.11.4, so hooray for that. Python Bytes.fm.
I had a friend say they were working on upgrading to 3.10, and I'm like, I don't even remember 3.10. I've been like on 3.11 for so long. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then final call. Just remember the Python Bytes AMA form. Please get out there and submit that one more time. Links in the show notes.
Yes.
That'd be cool. Right at the top. Yes. Ready for a joke?
I am.
This one comes to us from Ken Van Wyck, and it's a follow-on from the apple.com. Where's there it is. Their Vision Pro. Right. Yeah. Now this thing is super expensive. It looks really amazing. I've not got faith that it's going to take off. But the ability to say, like, I want to stand on the sideline right at the goal line at the Super Bowl and be able to look around and watch that as if I was there, like that would be epic. Is that worth a $3,500 device? Now, Brian, it's expensive, but did you know, just like the Mac Pro, which was also recently announced, the Mac Pro, super expensive, $7,000 minimum, but it doesn't come with the wheels. If you buy it with the wheels are $400 separate, right? Like to get the wheel for your case. So this is kind of like that. Here's this comes to us from Kim Van Wyck, and he says, actually, this is Paul Mason's thing. So you got got your $3,499 Vision Pro, and it comes with the Apple branded $899 Snorkel. What do you think of that?
I think that's cool. Yeah. If you could, if this would actually work underwater, so that you could go back out in your swimming pool, and you could look like you're actually on a coral reef, that'd be cool.
That would be awesome. Imagine you were in here playing something like Subnautica, one of those types of games, which is just amazing. It's like a game where you're underwater and exploring.
Yeah.
But in VR with your Apple Snorkel on, think how real that would be.
Yeah, but actually underwater, but they're probably
yes, not. Exactly.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Oh boy. Well, that's what I got for you all. $899 Apple Snorkel not included.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Nice.
Well, very fun. Thank you everyone for the active chat in the live stream. Thank you for everyone who listened, no matter how you listen. And Brian, thanks as always.
Thank you.